In preparation for the Refugee Sunday, I checked out the website of the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. In 2015, 65.3 million people were displaced, 5.8% more than in the previous year. And that number includes refugees, internally displaced persons, and asylum seekers. If these people were a nation, they would be the 21st largest country in the world. They are 1 in 113 persons, or roughly 1% of the world's population. And every 24 minutes, new persons are displaced from their homes, and over 50% of those refugees come from 3 countries: Syria, Afghanistan, and Somalia. 86% of all the refugees are housed in the developing nations of this world. And by and large, this is the largest number of displaced persons on record, and it's even more than the number of persons who were displaced after World War II. So much for the facts. I guess many of us know the mass migration only as a news topic. Electronic media feels authentic. But the truth is they are a double-edged sword. On one hand, the events they portray are close and immediate. But on the other hand, they remain abstract and distant, and that at the same time. The reality of the 24/7 news cycle cuts reality up into small, digestible bits and serve it through the evening news or through the internet or on pop-ups on our phones. We are constantly fed with information, no matter if we eat our dinners, play games, chat with friends and children, or book our next vacation. There is absolutely no news-free zone anymore. There is a constant bombardment of reporting. However, I'm not sure that the information overkill gets us really closer to the real tragic of this mass migration. The endless stream of people penetrates our consciousness as images and as sound bites. Their sheer number makes it hard not to see them as more or less abstract facts. It is difficult to recognize them as neighbors who consist of flesh and blood, of feelings, fears, hopes, and aspirations. Do any one of you actually know any refugees? That's one. I myself was all ready to say, no, I don't. Time is a velvet blanket that covers many unpleasant memories. It is only as I wrote this sermon that I remembered that each and every one of my immediate family had been refugees. They all fled the advancing Russian armies when Hitler's 1,000-year Reich collapsed after a mere 12 devastating years of hybris and terror. My wife's family's roots are in Transylvania. That's where Count Dracula roams through the moonlight and sucks blood. And now it belongs to Romania. They, like millions of other ethnic Germans, were expelled from Eastern Europe in the closing stages of World War II. My own family is from the west of West Germany, where the heart of the coal and steel industry is. They were evacuated to the rural east to save them from the constant air raids that pounded the industrial center of Germany into dust. And suddenly, when I remembered that, I suddenly remembered all the stories that were told when I was a child. Stories of mostly women and children with babies, old men, invalid veterans that had close encounters with fate, like hitching a ride in an officer's staff car, driving a while, then getting out, and witnessing the car getting blown up just heartbeats later. Or helping an invalid over a bridge, and when you want to return to get your children, then the enemy has closed the bridge. Or clutching your kids in panic after you accidentally ran into an enemy unit, and they get ready to gang rape you, and you're only saved by the mercy of a war-weary enemy officer who suddenly remembers that he and you are still human beings. And suddenly, remembering that, I was able to make that connection. These stories are very similar to the stories I watch in the news and that I read in the newspapers. Families that run from barrel bombs and warlords. They see firsthand how cars and buses are blown up that are supposed to bring them to safety. Fathers in small rubber boats who hang onto their children for dear life just to feel them getting ripped out of their grasp by the cruel sea. Women facing an armed mob of fanatics who declare to care deeply about God's law. And in their understanding, God's law tells them to marry the woman on the spot, to rape them and then divorce them on the spot, and then the next guy has his opportunity to do likewise, and no war-weary enemy officer to save them. As I remember those stories of my childhood, those stories on the news get more real and more immediate. I notice how the flood of electronic images has desensitized my perception of reality. Without remembering the stories of my childhood, I perceive the refugee crisis as a political issue or as an abstract moral problem that good theology can solve. I tend to forget that behind the cold statistics are living and breathing humans. When the Second World War came to a devastating end, nobody in my family would have left their homes if they didn't have to. Nobody ventures onto the Mediterranean in a rubber boat if they don't have to. Those boats are still safer than the place where home once was. The dusty roads that lead to the camps are an upgrade to war-torn countries and devastated landscapes. Refugees have no alternative. The truth will set us free. We are called to open our eyes and see the truth and reality of this hurting and broken world. We are called to give flesh to the dry bones of news footage and let the human beings emerge of the sterile embrace of statistics. We have to face the fact that we cannot change the world overnight. If we open our eyes, we will see the hurt and brokenness of this world, and we need to be prepared for seeing pain and hurt for a long time. And it is so easy to escape that pain and retreat into nihilistic cynicism or willful ignorance. It is so easy to close our hearts, not because we're mean, but because the pain of our sisters and brothers is so great. But if we want to be part of the solution, then we are in for the long haul. Things change extremely slow. The conflicts that we create, the conflicts that we help create, and the conflicts that are forced upon us are decades or even centuries in the making, and the solutions probably will take equally long. But we are uniquely positioned to face that challenge. The Lutheran Church proclaims the gospel of grace since 500 years, and the work is not even near to be finished. But as far as I can see, that has never deterred anyone to continue the work. We just keep on preaching and keep on praying and worshiping and loving our neighbors. The work of our salvation is done. God's grace comes to us as a free gift, and that worry is from our plate. We can put our whole effort into helping to imagine and to create a world in which God can take delight. We can put our whole being, our whole selves, our whole soul into being agents of grace in Port Angeles and in the whole world. Amen.